Thanks for having tea with me, Cheryl C. In terms of the debate about cash ISA tax allowance, this one really is just to follow up on the update that was announced last Wednesday. The FT, The Guardian, This Is Money, all the key publications announced that Rachel Reeves will not be making any plans to change the cash ISA allowance before the spring budget. So we will have to wait and see what she says. So essentially, great news. Jeff Prestige of This Is Money called it a victory, but has warned that we need to stay on top of the conversation because we don't know what she might decide to do, especially given the fact that city firms are the ones who have been lobbying the chancellor to cut tax allowance. Now, for me, this is hugely disappointing because these city firms are essentially acting against the will of the majority of retail investors and savers, and also the building societies, who have said that, cash ISAs don't just sit there. We, the building societies, use the funds to offer mortgages to, say, first-time home buyers, etc. And then retail shareholders, individual savers, basically for them, it's important to have choice. So I myself, I'm very big on helping regenerate UK capital markets. Yes, I might sound like this, but I've been living in this country for 20 years and I absolutely adore the UK. So I believe so much in supporting Britain, supporting British businesses, supporting homegrown entrepreneurs and international entrepreneurs that come here and want to contribute to society. So definitely, I believe in all of us having skin in the game and investing in our British businesses. However, this comes with caveats, right? So for me, the four reasons why I do not believe in this cash ISA tax allowance and why I am disappointed at the likes of Phoenix Group, at the likes of the London Stock Exchange, at the likes of Schroders, who are all sitting on the Capital Markets Industry Task Force, by the way, and the likes of Peel Hunt, who I've been whose posts I've been commenting on LinkedIn, and who I do respect, especially having been a judge of the non-executive director awards for a long time. They've been doing a lot of work with the London Stock Exchange too, at least on thought leadership and podcasts like that. So I worry that these institutions have a level of groupthink, and that groupthink actually goes against what shareholders want, what retail shareholders and savers want, and also against their best interests when it comes to empowering themselves as financially educated individuals within our capital markets. So the first point of contention I have is that cash ISAs are really important for those individuals like older pensioners who can't take massive risks. Look, I'm a crypto gal, right? Crypto ho, wannabe. I absolutely think it's fascinating what is happening in crypto, in Bitcoin. Not so much in the meme coin space because there's so much that still needs to be done in terms of like rug pulling, but even the meme coin space is so fascinating for tokenization, which I'll cover eventually. So risk, for me, absolutely worth it if it's calculated and you don't lose sleep on it. But for those older pensioners, for example, or those saving to buy their first home, having the cash ISA allowance as is important for them. And then secondly, the argument presented by some of these city firms is that removing the allowance on cash should compel these savers into investing instead in UK equities. For me, at best, that's naive, because you take away a benefit from one area, and then you think they will do something different just because you took something away. Well, what about education, right? What about the problem with stamp duty? So basically, the fact that it's cheaper to buy Tesla than it is to buy Aston Martin, because you don't pay stamp duty as a British person or a British domiciled person on UK, US, or foreign stocks, is insane, right? So essentially, you take away, you cut down the cash ISA allowance from 20,000 to 4,000, hoping, without any kind of replacement for a British ISA program, that the individuals will just automatically invest in UK equities. I don't think it will work because of what I've already mentioned. So we need other incentives, other programs that will then encourage the individuals to invest more in UK equities. But for me, the feeling is that these city firms want these individuals to go through them. So if you look at the share prices of some of these firms, it's very mixed. One's share price looks like a downward ski slope, so probably makes sense that they're calling for this tax allowance cut in the hopes that individuals will go through them. The third issue, which is very close to my heart, and also my colleague Danny Wallace is my co-founding member, Danny Wallace, who is huge on financial education, is that you cannot have any kind of retail UK equity buying program without widespread financial education. Amy Edwards wrote a brilliant book called Are We Rich Yet? Essentially, it covers the recent history of UK retail share ownership, and she talks very much about the initiatives that were previously undertaken by various governments, Conservative and Labour, with the 1980s and the 1990s being the most recent example, where essentially there was an increase of retail shareholder participation. But ultimately, those retail shareholders, those individuals, were told, we'll make it simple for you. You're not sophisticated, so it would be best that you buy such and such financial product that will give you exposure to UK equities market, but you don't have to know or understand what you're investing in. So then what actually ended up happening was retail shareholders were pushed into institutions, holding positions through those institutions, and essentially our society becoming financialized in an institutional way. So today, we're calling for the opposite of that. We appreciate very much the efforts that were undertaken in the 80s and the 90s, like Call SID, where essentially retail were encouraged to participate. But we want sincere financial education of our people. Even me, I still have so much to learn about finance and investing, and I'm meant to be a serious person. But golly, if I can just tell you about my most recent experience over the last 2 years, gosh, you will understand why all of us still require financial education to be truly empowered and to be truly financially free. Then essentially, in terms of the final point of the whole cash ISA debate, is the building societies. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this, but it's interesting to read and hear and see the leaders of these building societies basically stepping up and saying, look, the cash ISAs don't just sit there. we're using the funds to basically offer mortgages and opportunities for people like first-time buyers to get on the property ladder. So I guess my point here is that the whole regeneration of UK capital markets obviously is complicated, but we all need to participate in the regeneration of our capital markets. So all hands on the pump, including direct retail shareholders and the next generation, all generations. So there is no silver bullet for solving all of these issues. We have to engage with one another. We have to have representation. Direct retail shareholders must be involved in conversations that affect us and our future. So I understand a disparate number of individuals is hard to manage, but there are organizations like T, like AXA, and communities that basically can be called upon to provide insights on behalf of their groups, and then have representation on things like Capital Markets Industry Task Force. And I've been busting my balls, so to speak, for over 2 years now on the engagement appeal, and I and my colleagues are willing to help. And let us help. We are part of capital markets too. So I hope this makes sense, and I hope that we will continue engaging with one another. I am putting on my Gen Z and millennial hat as a Gen X, which is funny. Hence these kinds of content that I've been putting out. And also even having my own Substack blog. I absolutely love Substack. It's so cool. Essentially, you can put your writing, your video, podcast content onto this platform and basically share your insights and your knowledge. It's brilliant. And it's really cool to see that a chairman, for example, Roger Perry, who was the former chair of YouGov, basically being on it. So how cool is that? Well, the lights are going off, and so I guess that's a sign for me to call it a video. So thank you so much for listening, and looking forward to continuing our discussion. And my Substack is cherylinmotion.substack.com.